Well, a very warm welcome to you all to eThekwini training and another episode of this Bite-Sized Corrosion series where we are celebrating women in corrosion and engineering. My name is Vanessa Seeley-Fisher and it is my great pleasure to host today's session. Our Bite-Sized Corrosion conversations are designed to do exactly that, to break the topic of corrosion in its various facets within engineering, break them down into something we can understand, so that each of us leaves with a better understanding of corrosion and how to tackle it in our daily lives. This current series is highlighting some phenomenal women in the industry. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Roxanne Canny. Roxanne is a professionally registered civil engineer with over a decade of experience in managing major water infrastructure projects. She is currently the acting area project manager at eThekwini Municipality's Water and Sanitation Department. And Roxanne is passionate about mentoring young engineers and empowering women in the industry. So Roxanne, thank you. We're delighted to have you with us today. Roxanne, what inspired you to pursue civil engineering and what drew you specifically to the water sector?
Sure. Well, first of all, Vanessa, thank you so much for inviting me through. And I'm feeling humbled to be able to come and have a conversation with you today. So what inspired me to pursue civil engineering is a really good question. I've always been interested in doing puzzles and solving problems and being creative. In high school, I took up double science and art, not really knowing what I was going to study in university, but I was probably first exposed to the world of engineering when I was in high school. My mom worked for an engineering consulting company as a draftswoman. And often after school, I would walk to her work and I would find a spot to sit and do my homework. And without being aware of it, being influenced by my surroundings and the people in it, I always took an interest in the work that my mom was doing and really enjoyed the people that she worked with. So that was definitely an influencing factor in my life. And when the opportunity came up to apply for a bursary, I did that and I got the bursary, and that was essentially destiny sealing my fate and coming into the world of civil engineering. But specifically what drew me to the water sector, probably the environment that I was in. Again, my mom worked in the water sector and she still does now. Also, the fact that I'm really passionate about making real life impact and being a part of service delivery for a basic human right does come with its personal reward. So I think the clear answer to that question is my mom was the inspiration for me getting to where I am right now.
Oh, that's so lovely. It's very interesting that you say that you're wanting to see a tangible difference. You're not the first engineer I've spoken to who has chosen the sector of engineering for precisely that reason. And perhaps different sectors, but each with that as a reason. Now, I'm very interested that while many engineers look to move into the private consulting sector of engineering, you have elected to move out of private and back into eThekwini Municipality. And I'm intrigued what drew you into the municipal world.
When I was working for the engineering consulting company, I was working quite closely with a manager in eThekwini on some of the projects that I was involved with. And I was really drawn to her mentorship. And not only that, but it was observable that a number of women within municipality were in leadership positions. And this was really motivating and inspiring for me to see the success of women in the space. So that was a definite drive. It was certainly appealing for me because I wasn't seeing the same sort of role model campaigning in the spaces that I was in. So for me, that was attractive. And I also realized that there was more opportunity to make influencing decisions on project direction, project budgeting. Being within the municipality, there would be more authority to make those decisions and to make impact that I saw noteworthy and beneficial to the communities.
Well, that's a really interesting answer. Thank you. I hadn't thought of that as being a mechanism of managing change from within rather than trying to do it from without. That's an interesting perspective. Now, within the municipality, you've been managing a number of large-scale water infrastructure projects. Are you able to choose your favorite or most rewarding project over the last few years? And if so, why? What makes that so memorable?
So there is one project that stands out, and I think it will for my entire career, and that is the Burberry's project. It was an upgrade to pipeline, reservoir, and pump station. It was a project that I got involved with from feasibility stage at the design consulting company. There were a lot of complex challenges that we needed to overcome. It was also a project that I worked with my mom on. So it's very memorable in that sense when we were putting together the drawings and the finalized detailed drawings, etc. And so once we had concluded the design work as part of the deliverables from the consulting engineer, I then actually started working at council when the project was being implemented. So I was able then to manage that project during implementation from the client side. So in a very rare opportunity, I've been able to see both sides of the coin on a project from feasibility all the way through to completion and handover. So it was extremely rewarding for me to see all those years of work being implemented in the way that I had intended for it to be implemented. It was a multi-stakeholder involved project. And I fostered and created a lot of relationships during that project that still benefit me now. And I've made such good friendships with some of those stakeholders. And, it's funny how sometimes the universe ends up because I work a lot with them in the position that I'm in now. Over and above, it was a project that saw for additional water supply and water security to an area, and also unlocked a number of housing developments which have now taken place. So when I go back and I'm working in the area, I can see the physical results that the project has had on that community. So it's one that will stick with me for my entire career, I'm sure.
Yes, and extremely fulfilling to go from inception and now see water coming out of the taps, and hopefully only the taps and not the wrong places on the pipes.
I think that's a different conversation that we may still have.
Yes, this isn't specifically corrosion centered, so let's not digress along that. But just looking back at that project and other projects, I'm sure you've got some key lessons that you take from each project relating to project management, but perhaps some lessons that you wish you'd known when you started out about project managing in this water and sanitation space.
I think there are a lot of key lessons that I could share, but I'm going to try and be specific to the ones that I feel are probably most pertinent to my experience. And that is, no project is the same. The only thing that is consistent is change. Every project is going to bring new stakeholders and new challenges that require completely new solutions and ways of managing. For me, I think the development of soft skills early on is crucial. Being able to manage people, different personality types, as well as conflict. And conflict isn't a negative thing in these spaces. It brings about new solutions and different perspectives, but it's about being able to manage how those conversations are conducted and being able to collaboratively work with different personalities. So for me, the development of soft skills and also understanding political and cultural backgrounds in a multi-stakeholder engagement.
Yes, that's a very interesting comment, because I think particularly within the South African context, the understanding the cultural and ethnic background is often part of the solution, is to understand that the differences may be outside of the project itself completely, but a historical, cultural perspective. Looking at one of our challenges in this country is definitely water scarcity. There's challenges with the volume of water that's no longer available, challenges about infrastructure. How do you think that is compounded with corrosion?
Sure, corrosion is a sore point to talk on, but it is an imperative discussion to have. So corrosion has a direct correlation on the integrity of our water infrastructure, specifically our steel pipelines, which a lot of our bulk conveyance is made of. And our older pipelines with vandalized cathodic protection units are all at great risk of corrosion-related leaks and bursts, leading to water losses within the system. And South Africa has got quite a significant water loss percentage. And this means that there is less water availability and water reliability to our end users. It impacts directly on the non-revenue water. and it's a major challenge. But not only are water losses, the corrosion can also result in contamination of the corroded elements into the water, and can also result in sediments and deposits, which affect the hydraulic efficiency of our systems over significant time. So it's crucial that we have robust corrosion resistant systems in place. Yeah, it's a hot topic at the moment as well.
So just on that, I do think that, and I'm guilty of this within the corrosion space, thinking about the corrosion and the corrosion issue that's facing me and the problem right now. But the pollution from the corrosion, if we can put it that way, and the damage that the sediments might do, the fouling of the water and whatever, is something that perhaps we don't think about as being a direct result of the corrosion. So yes, certainly something to think about. And in that, I know it's a hot topic, and I'm just going to put a little ad in. In our October series of Bite-Sized Corrosion, we're actually going to be focusing on cathodic protection and vandalism. And without stealing too much from that, I wondered if you've encountered any innovative approaches or technologies that you are using to try and overcome some of these challenges with corrosion affecting the infrastructure and worsening our water scarcity.
So one thing that we are currently looking into is corrosion resistant materials. And this space is advancing in terms of technological advances, but specifically we're looking at rolling out HDPE bulk conveyance pipelines. And this is a inert material. It doesn't corrode. It comes with its own challenges. So we're testing the space to see how it works and its applicability to roll out throughout the rest of the municipality. But talking about the technological advances relating to corrosion, I was fortunate enough to be part of the Hitachi specialized training where I stayed in Japan for 2 months. And I was able to witness the technology that they're using in their everyday sort of life. And what's exciting is, the smart monitoring and predictive maintenance. So instead of waiting for leaks and bursts, you have sensors, etc., that are able to detect deterioration, detect corrosion, and allow us to work proactively instead of reactively. One of the waves of technology that's coming through are digital twins, where we can create a digital twin of our water network and have a live overview of how our networks are running, so that we can preemptively identify critical spaces that will need repair, that will need maintenance to avoid bursts. Something that I researched quite recently was self-healing coatings that are currently being researched by CSIR and universities within South Africa, which are coatings that's inspired by plant healing properties. So for me, that was just phenomenal. But who knows what the future is going to bring, if we're going to have nanobots finding and replacing areas of corrosion or repairing our linings of pipes. I had a look at those Tesla robots and the tasks that they are able to carry out. And who knows if in 10 or 15 years, they're going to be operating our water treatment works and our wastewater treatment works, optimizing their efficiency. I mean, it's such an exciting space to see. And also the Water Research Commission fund and support so many innovative ideas that technology is really becoming within reach for a lot of these exciting ideas.
That is encouraging to hear, and it's lovely that you've been afforded the opportunity within eThekwini Municipality to explore some of these options, because I think that this is a perfect space to try it out and to see what works and what doesn't work. There are obviously boundaries within that. You've mentioned self-healing coatings. You've mentioned the use of bots to operate, maybe to optimize our systems. What other things are exciting you about the future of civil engineering within the water sector?
I think just proceeding from the previous question is that technology is accelerating, and there are a lot of technologies that already exist. But as we are advancing, these technologies are becoming more affordable, which make them more accessible for us to implement. Civil engineering in general is intended to improve the quality of life, to connect people, and is an ever evolving field. It's not stagnant. It's on the forefront
Yes.
of technology. And I'm amazed by the engineering feats that I see online that continue to defy the limits of what we thought was possible. But I think what I'm excited about is the shift to data-driven decision making, with the
Sure.
use of the visibility on our systems with sensors, satellite imagery, and digital twins. But personally, I'm really excited for the shift in water equity, where we move away from urban reliability and rural scarcity. So the drive in the future is to make water available to all.
And let's hope we can implement that sooner rather than later. I'd like to shift attention a little bit. You are not just involved with the municipality in your role there, but you're also extremely involved with IMESA. And firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on being appointed the chair of the KZN section of IMESA. I think that is fantastic news,
Thanks
and
so
I
much.
wish you well. I know that you've also within that got a fantastic passion for young engineers. You've been involved in organizations like GirlEng, WomEng. How do you feel that these experiences have shaped or are shaping your approach to mentorship and support, particularly of young women in engineering?
So, mentorship has always been a great passion of mine. I feel like I am most rewarded when I'm able to set up the foundations for others' success. It's a part of who I am, and the universe has been giving enough to find spaces for me to mentor not only women but men as well.
Mm.
And my experience with GirlEng and WomEng has expanded my realization and reminded me of the number of challenges that girls and women still face in the industry.
Mm.
There's been significant progress, even from when I started in the industry up until now, but there are still a huge number of challenges that we're facing. And I feel that these experiences have molded the way that I teach, the way that I conduct myself, and the way that I mentor. And experiencing some of these challenges myself has aided me in mentoring and equipping others with the tools and knowledge on how to be resilient and how to be prepared, but also how to make their voice heard and communicate on these challenges.
Yes, and I think communication really is key in that. And well done. I just want to say it's lovely to see someone who has clearly been mentored and offering that back, because I think sometimes we become so concerned about ourselves that we forget to extend the helping hand down as well. So congratulations in that. Roxanne, what do you think we need to do within the industry to attract more women and to retain them within engineering and to encourage them into leadership? What are some of the things that you think that we could do better?
On the point of attracting more women into the field of engineering, if it wasn't for my mom's place of work, I don't think that civil engineering would have been in my vocabulary, of possible
Mhm.
career choices. And my involvement with GirlEng, SA WomEng, and even the outreach programs that we have with IMESA, there's not enough visibility to girls in high school and campaigning that civil engineering is a space in which they are welcomed and included and can be successful in. Just the other day, we had the SASI bridge building competition, and we had high school students come through and say, oh, we would have loved to have taken up civil engineering, but we don't do EGD. Our school doesn't offer engineering, drawing, and graphics. And we said, but you don't need that to study engineering.
Yes,
So
yes.
there's also misconceptions, not just to
Mm.
females, but to men as well. And that just shows the lack of accurate information. So how
Mm.
can we do more to reach possible amazing engineers to get them into the industry, because they
Mm.
feel as if they can't even open the door? And how do we retain more women in engineering roles, especially in leadership positions? So it's not just about mentorship, it's also about sponsorship, having a senior leader identify the potential in a woman and advocate for
Mm.
her to move up, advocate to put her into leadership positions. So I think that is a strong one, and it doesn't need to be females that are doing that. Even more recognition is coming from men who identify the achievements and the potential that women can have. And I feel like that just hits differently when you're
Mm.
being sponsored and pushed by a male ally and within the industry. And I've been very lucky to have both male and female mentors in my space. I'm very grateful for that. I think a pertinent conversation that needs to happen, in South Africa in the near future is the flexibility that workspaces offer women. A major challenge for women is in the phase of their life when they are starting family. And more than often, it does stagnate a woman's movement or progression in her career. So how do we address this concern? A lot of women are also stepping out of the career to rather take care of family, not being able to juggle the work-life balance that's currently built for us. The framework, although it's accepted for now, it is not the optimum and efficient framework for women to be in, to be successful in both their home life and their work life. So what are other countries, what are other companies adopting? They're adopting things like flexi time, efficient flexi time, a partial remote working. It doesn't need to be full remote working. Let's look at more hybrid options where possible, but also things like on-site childcare. These are all workable solutions that are being implemented elsewhere. So why can't we start adopting that here? Allow us to be effective leaders and mothers at the same time. It's difficult for us to be changing those hats consistently during the day.
Very definitely. I said to someone the other day, and my children are now grown, but I said to them, I still feel like I'm juggling the hats. The mom hat, the work hat, the colleague hat, the friend hat, the leader hat, and continually running. I think the demands on women in leadership within our sector are challenging, and I think you're right. I think we need to be a bit more creative, and maybe women need to speak up more, but I think everybody also needs to listen and see if we can together find solutions that work. So with all that in mind, what advice would you give to a young female engineer who's feeling very intimidated, especially after this discussion, about entering into this, which really is still a very male-dominated field?
It is, and it is intimidating. So let me just confirm that you don't feel wrong for feeling intimidated. It is an intimidating space to set into, and there are still spaces within civil engineering that are not very welcoming of women. For example, being out on site. It is a difficult space to be in. Yes, we can thrive, but it takes earning some stripes to be there confidently at times. At least that was my experience. It is intimidating, but learn those soft skills. Develop yourself, develop your confidence. Stay resilient, stay strong, and show your confidence. That would be my advice.
Well, Roxanne, this really has been such a fascinating discussion. I thank you so much for sharing part of your own story and also for giving me, and I'm sure our audience, great hope for the future of the engineering in our municipalities. There have been many periods where we felt a little despondent, but knowing that there are competent engineers coming back into the municipalities is really encouraging. And I see IMESA fulfilling a great role there. And with you at the helm, I'm sure it's going to be phenomenal. And I'm really certain that our audience has also enjoyed today's discussion as much as I have. You've really given us a lot of food for thought in terms of engineering, being a woman, and also some of the corrosion challenges that we face. So thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you for having me. It really has been an honor.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you for being with us. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.